When he first joined Miami Metro, Detective Joey Quinn was no one's favorite, but over time he grew on pretty much everyone and became a real asset to the force. Angel Batista was probably his closest friend, and now that he's been killed by Leon Prater, Quinn won't be able to stop himself from trying to figure out what happened to him, and we know what that means. Quinn is almost definitely going to die in Dexter Resurrection. Today we are breaking down exactly why this is inevitable, but first let's take a look back at why this case will be so important to Quinn in the first place. Quinn's relationship with Angel Batista was hard-earned. Angel was a hard-working, straight arrow kind of cop for the most part, and Quinn was a bit of a loose cannon who broke rules whenever he needed to. Quinn was routinely late to work, took cash from crime scenes, stole evidence from the department, accepted bribes, and more. Batista wasn't aware of all of Quinn's sins, but the things he did know got under his skin. Quinn put Batista in the hot seat when he killed a member of the Koshka Brotherhood, but staged it to look like self-defense. He did it again, more literally this time, when he was late to his shift and left Batista to investigate Travis Marshall on his own. Batista ended up knocked out and tied to a bed in a house Travis set on fire. If he had his partner as a backup that day, Batista would have never been in that situation. That means that Quinn's recklessness almost got Batista killed. Batista has even had to punch Quinn's lights out on at least one occasion. After Quinn proposed to Deb and got rejected, he took it pretty hard. For some reason, he thought it would be a good idea to show up to Deb's housewarming party drunk off his ass. When he got there, he was unbearably obnoxious to everyone. Batista was trying to help him out at first, but when Quinn started hitting on his little sister Jamie in the most disgusting way, Batista reacted impulsively, punching Quinn in the face and embarrassing him in front of everyone. There were also smaller clashes between the two of them, including a fist fight in broad daylight after Quinn mouthed off and insulted Angel pretty brutally for his previous failed relationships and letting Deb become lieutenant before him. Another loving confrontation happened when Angel threatened to have Quinn transferred out of homicide if he didn't step up and start taking his job more seriously. All this to say, Batista and Quinn didn't start off strong, but by the end of the original series, they were very close. Batista encouraged Quinn to become a better detective and partner, and Quinn started to do just that. And with true mutual respect between the two of them, they were able to become great colleagues and even better friends. Quinn even helped Batista pay for the restaurant he wanted to open after he retired the first time, giving him a sizable loan of $10,000 and calling Angel his family. With that kind of history, it's easy to imagine that they only got closer as they rose through the ranks together at Miami Metro, with Angel becoming captain of homicide and Quinn becoming his lieutenant. They had a good thing going, but that ended when Angel retired out of nowhere with virtually no explanation. Quinn had no idea why, but Angel ended up leaving New York, and within just a few weeks of his retirement, he was dead in Prater's vault. Let's not forget that Quinn has already been suspicious of Dexter in the past. After Rita was murdered by the Trinity Killer, Quinn couldn't help but notice that he didn't seem as upset as he should. His wife was just murdered, and Dexter barely showed any emotion at all. His call to 911 was oddly robotic, and his description of Rita's condition was a bit too clinical. Not only that, but Rita didn't fit Trinity's kill cycle, so police couldn't understand why she was targeted in the first place. Add to all of this the fact that Quinn found out about their neighbor Elliot coming on to Rita shortly before her death, and it started to seem more and more likely to him that Dexter was responsible for Rita's death. He decided to get the help of recently disgraced ex-cop Stan Liddy to try to get to the bottom of what Dexter was hiding. Quinn was taking his investigation into Dexter very seriously. He even went as far as tracking down Arthur Mitchell's son, Jonah, to see if he recognized Dexter. If Jonah identified Dexter that day, even if he called him Kyle Butler, Quinn's secret investigation would have been blown wide open. But Quinn was interrupted by Jonah's handlers from the FBI before he could get anything out of Jonah. Next thing he knew, he was placed on administrative leave for going behind LaGuerta's back to keep looking into Dexter, despite her telling him explicitly to drop it. Almost exactly like what happened to Sergeant Dokes. Maybe Quinn would have been angry enough to see the investigation to the end at that point, but he was falling for Deb at the time, and there was no way for him to expose Dexter without hurting her. He made the decision to call off the entire thing, and that probably saved his life, but it wasn't so simple. Liddy was determined to see it through, to use any of the dirt he found on Dexter to get his job back. Of course, Liddy made the mistake of kidnapping and threatening Dexter, and he ended up dead the very same day. He called Quinn like 5 times right before he died, saying he had something big in the Dexter investigation, and then 30 minutes later, he's dead? And when Quinn was implicated in Liddy's death, Dexter fudged the blood work to clear him as a suspect. Why would Dexter do that if he had nothing to hide himself? If Liddy's death didn't confirm Quinn's suspicions, there were plenty of weird things that happened after that that will. Killing Oliver Saxon had to be one of the strangest things Quinn saw Dexter do. Saxon, aka the brain surgeon, was a serial killer who'd been removing parts of his victims' brains and sending them to his estranged mother, Dr. Evelyn Vogel. Dexter planned to catch and kill him like he would any other serial killer, but at the last minute, he changed his mind. He handed Saxon over to Deb so she could bring him in to face justice the legal way. Sadly, Saxon managed to get free, and when Deb entered the room, he gravely shot her as he escaped. Deb made it through surgery and looked like she would recover, but suffered a stroke soon after that left her brain dead and on life support. After that, Dexter knew he had to kill him, but Saxon got arrested. Dexter wasn't going to let that stop him. He visited Saxon while he was in a holding cell under the guise of performing a gunshot residue test. Dexter provoked Saxon until he attacked him, and when he did that, Dexter stabbed him in the jugular, killing him in seconds. Dexter knew they would be on camera, so he knew he had to make killing Saxon look like self-defense and appear shaken up after, and that's exactly what he did. It wasn't the most compelling excuse. Dexter wasn't even supposed to be handling the case because his family member was the victim. Not only that, but he was barely even an employee anymore. He had just put in his notice so he could move with Hannah and Harrison to Argentina, and his last day was that day. His acting on the tape wasn't exactly very convincing. When Batista and Quinn reviewed the recording, Dexter looked like an experienced killer, not some frightened victim. The kill was so clean, and there was even a moment between Saxon bleeding out and Dexter actually hitting the panic button for help, almost as if he was savoring the kill. Quinn had a knowing look in his eye when Dexter claimed he only killed Saxon to save himself, and he immediately backed him up on it, calling it a clear case of self-defense. After that, Quinn should have had no doubt that Dexter wasn't who he appeared to be. Once again, someone Dexter had reason to want gone was dead. And this time, it was definitely because of him. The list just kept growing and growing. Quinn may have been quick to help Dexter get out of it all because of his feelings for Deb. But after watching that tape, he definitely knew that this wasn't Dexter's first time killing. And even before Saxon, there was Maria LaGuerta's death that also seemed a bit odd to say the least. The thing is, Quinn already has good reason to believe that Dexter was involved in Maria's death. In the final season of the original series, Deborah was a wreck. The memory of killing LaGuerta was haunting her, and she started abusing drugs and alcohol to cope. Unlike Dexter, she was not okay with killing innocent people. Deb has shot and killed someone before, but that was in the line of duty, and it was done to save someone's life. In the case of Maria, the only reason Deb killed her was to protect Dexter and keep him out of jail. She couldn't justify that sort of a thing. After that, she hung up her badge and found a job working as a private investigator, but the emotional turmoil didn't go away. After quitting her job as the lieutenant of homicide, Deb showed up to the Miami Metro Police Department to confess everything. Luckily for her, and more notably Dexter, the first person she encountered when she got there was Quinn. Deb immediately started to tell him everything, but it didn't go anywhere. She was completely wasted, and her partial statement wasn't even close to credible because of that. Quinn called Dexter to let him know everything, that his sister was in the station, drunk off her ass, acting irrationally, and claiming to have killed LaGuerta. Before she could finish writing her statement, Dexter was on the scene. Quinn didn't believe that Deb killed Maria. At the time, everyone believed that Hector Estrada killed her after she had him released from prison early as part of her off-the-record Bay Harbor Butcher investigation. It looked like an open and shut case. They buried Maria, dedicated a bench to her, and everyone pretty much moved on. So Deb's claim that she was actually the one responsible for it seemed crazy. Quinn let Dexter take Deb home, and later he was able to talk Deb out of confessing. After that, Quinn pretty much just let it go, writing it off as survivor's guilt. But with Angel's death, that memory of Deb's confession might come back to him. First, Liddy dies looking into Dexter, then Maria dies while looking into Dexter. Then Deb ends up brain dead, and Dexter takes her killer out on camera before dumping her body in the ocean. And as if that wasn't all weird enough, then Dexter faked his own death and fled the state, completely abandoning his son. And now Batista? As it currently stands, Quinn doesn't know that Batista was in New York to track Dexter. He may not even know that Dexter is alive yet, but that will likely change in the upcoming season. And at some point, anyone paying attention would be more than suspicious. Again, Joey and Angel were so close that the rocky start to their relationship is just a distant memory now. Even with Angel's resignation from the Force, Quinn had no intention of letting the two of them drift apart. Quinn was the last person to call Angel's phone after he was killed in Prater's vault, and that was to beg him to come home to Miami. That final voicemail from Quinn proves that there was real love between them, so there is absolutely no doubt that Quinn will be heading to New York himself to look into Angel's final days and find out why he was murdered. When Angel's body is sent back to Miami and the funeral is over and done with, Quinn is sure to have a lot of questions. The first most likely being why the hell Angel would have been shot in the back 5 times by a billionaire. Batista wasn't a criminal, and he was a very likable person. Why would anyone use that level of force against him? Batista was like Quinn's brother on the police force. He isn't going to take Angel's violent and mysterious death lying down. And when he gets to New York, things are bound to escalate quickly. Quinn's from New York, so he's probably going to have a little more luck poking his head around the city than Batista did. It won't take him long to figure out who he needs to talk to in New York, so once he starts getting some answers and he gets a hold of Claudette and Oliva, all of the strange details surrounding Batista's time in New York are going to come out. The most important detail being that Batista was only in the city to track down Dexter Morgan. It's true that when Claudette called Quinn in season 1, she let him know that Batista was in New York masquerading as an active police officer and continuing Maria's investigation into the Bay Harbor Butcher case, but she didn't mention Dexter at all. And Batista was very tight-lipped about everything before he left Miami too. That means that there is a good chance that when Quinn meets up with Claudette, that will be the first time he is hearing about Dexter being alive. Just like when Chief Bishop sent Batista that photo of her and Dexter together, confirming that he wasn't actually dead and was instead living under an assumed identity in Iron Lake, New York, Quinn will likely be totally shocked to find out what Dexter has been up to since Deb's death. But he may be less surprised to learn that Batista thought Dexter was the actual Bay Harbor Butcher. It won't take long before everything starts adding up. Even if he can't prove anything yet, Quinn respects Batista too much to just assume that he was all wrong about Dexter. And if he did that, he would also have to ignore his own instincts about Dexter to write off everything Batista believed. He will basically have no choice but to acknowledge the fact that every time someone gets too close to Dexter, they die. Even his own wife and sister weren't safe. Another thing to remember is that because of Maria's obsession with the BHB case before her death, it's likely that almost everyone in the department knows that there were glaring inconsistencies with the theory of James Dokes being the butcher. And he also died in a remote location in a mysterious way after personally investigating Dexter. Not only that, but everywhere Dexter's been since he faked his death, at least one serial killer has disappeared from that area. It was Kurt Caldwell, the runaway killer in Iron Lake, and Ronald Schmidt, the dark passenger in New York City. And Batista even figured out that Dexter was linked to Mia LaPierre in some way, and she was a serial killer who suddenly ended up dead as well, supposedly. Plus, Claudette will most likely also be interested in figuring out why exactly someone like Leon Prater would want to kill Batista. She'd want to know what Leon had to do with the Bay Harbor Butcher case, and why Batista would even think to go to his mansion as part of his BHB investigation in the first place. If Quinn starts poking around and asking enough questions, and Detective Wallace is allowed to pursue the case in her usual meticulous style, more and more of the puzzle pieces will start to fall into place, and it won't be long before Dexter is right back in the hot seat. And that is why Quinn will probably have to die. Quinn snooping around in Batista's death is going to be a nightmare for Dexter. It's like a never-ending cycle at this point. First, Maria tried to pin him down. Then, Angela Bishop arrested him in Iron Lake. And even when she let up, Batista still came around trying to catch him once and for all. He can never just get into a routine, something he used to need to keep himself grounded. What's worse is that each time one of these people looked into him, his family was thrown into turmoil, and it always ended with an innocent person dying. After he started tracking Dexter, James Dokes was murdered by Lila West, who blew him to pieces in the Florida Everglades. When Maria picked up the mantle, she was technically an innocent person and she would end up dead too, this time killed by Deb, an action that nearly killed her and her relationship with Dexter. Angela Bishop throwing Dexter in jail left him so desperate that he attacked and killed Sergeant Logan, another innocent person. And that murder almost ruined his relationship with Harrison, got him shot, and left him in a coma for 10 weeks. It also put Batista back on his trail, which resulted in Batista's death and got Dexter's son Harrison kidnapped and almost killed twice in one day. First by Charlie and then by Leon Prater. When will it end? Well, it could end with Quinn. Quinn is the last person in the world who really suspects Dexter at all, and he is the only person who has enough of the background information to be able to put everything together at this point. He could build a really solid case against Dexter. He could even pull other people into the investigation if he was savvy enough. What if, while he was looking into Batista's death, Quinn tracked down Angela and pulled her back into everything? That could lead to old cases from back in Iron Lake being reopened, like the death of Jasper Hodges and the disappearance of Matt Caldwell. It could even lead to Logan's murder being looked into more closely. Dexter can't afford to have all of that coming back to haunt him. Not to mention that Quinn would likely be trying to prove that Dexter is the true Bay Harbor Butcher, just like Batista. If Quinn is successful in proving Dexter is guilty of any of those crimes, Dexter will be looking at years in prison, or worse, the death penalty. We know he can't allow that to happen due to the whole don't get caught part of the code, so Dexter is going to feel like a cornered animal yet again, and that's not going to end well for Quinn. In the past, Quinn has backed off of Dexter, and for his own self-preservation, obviously, but it was mainly his feelings for Deb that kept him from going after Dexter that time. First with Liddy, and then when he watched Dexter kill the brain surgeon. But Deb isn't there anymore to shield Dexter from Quinn's suspicions. And if Quinn finds out that Dexter was at all involved in Batista's death, he may be more motivated to avenge the death and memory of his good friend than to continue ignoring everything just to save his own life. And Batista told Dexter that they all saw him take Deb off life support and dump her body during the hurricane. That was more than a little weird, and it also deprived the other people in Miami who cared about her from getting any proper closure about her death. Quinn's probably done with Dexter's crazy, selfish bullshit by now. That level of determination always makes people a problem for Dexter, and being a problem for Dexter always means someone is gonna die. What are the odds that Quinn just lets it all go yet again? If Claudette actually agrees to help him, that could make him feel more emboldened to go after Dexter. Maybe Dexter has managed to get away with taking all of his enemies out before, but those people rarely have the support of an entire police department behind them. Dokes, Maria, and Batista were all operating outside of the law when they started looking into Dexter. Angela may have had the support of her team in Iron Lake, but she didn't share much about her suspicions with any of them besides Logan, as small as that team was, and he ended up dead as well. Plus, the police department in Iron Lake had very limited resources, especially compared to a place as well funded as the NYPD. And Iron Lake was a small town that didn't seem to have more than 3 active police on duty at any given time. That little manpower would definitely impact their ability to focus on cases that had no forensic evidence. Even the missing girls case that Chief Angela Bishop had dedicated her life to wasn't given much attention. That being said, Quinn wouldn't have any of those problems if he got Claudette on his side. He may be able to get further in a BHB investigation than any of the people before him. And since he is still a police officer, she will be less likely to send Quinn away when he asks for her help. Quinn will probably also figure that Dexter can't just straight up kill him after he starts working with Detective Wallace. He was just being accused by Batista and he was brutally murdered. If Quinn just so happens to die in some strange way shortly after he gets to New York to investigate Dexter, no one at the NYPD is going to buy that it's all just a coincidence. Knowing this, Quinn could really begin to feel untouchable. That may be good for his investigation at first, but it's almost certain to get him killed. And Dexter just started to get back on track. He's set up a pretty decent life in New York since being shot. He's got friends again. He got a normal job. Harrison just enrolled in college and accepted Dexter back into his life. If Quinn thinks he is just going to blow into town and take that all away from him, he is in for a rude awakening. Dexter was willing to kill Maria if it meant staying out of prison, and he actually did kill Logan when he wanted to get back to Harrison. Quinn is no more important to him. When he becomes an obstacle to Dexter, the most likely outcome will be Dexter eliminating that obstacle. Dexter probably won't want to kill Quinn, but that hasn't stopped him from completing a kill before. Just look at what he did to his own brother, Brian Moser. The bottom line, Quinn won't be able to stop himself from investigating Batista's death, especially once he finds out about Dexter's potential involvement. He and Batista were too close, and he's seen too much carnage in Dexter's wake up to this point. If he were smarter or less enraged, he might stay in Miami, but his confidence in his case and the NYPD could blind him to the fact that this can't possibly end well for him. With Deb gone and his best friend dead now too, Quinn has little left to lose by going after Dexter this time. And he wasn't the only person who loved Batista. Batista had gotten a new wife, he had a daughter he adored, a loving little sister, and probably plenty of other people back in Miami who cared about him, and they will all likely want answers about his death. Quinn could feel like he owes it to them to figure it out, even if it may be dangerous. As noble as his intentions may be, Quinn won't make it to the other side of this investigation alive. It may be sad, but Quinn's death will tie up the final loose end from Dexter's life in Miami that could continue to drag him down, and Dexter knows that. That makes Quinn's death or disappearance all but inevitable. But what do you think? Is there a chance Quinn will make it out alive? Will his survival instincts override how much he cared about Batista? If not, who do you think will end up killing Quinn? Let us know your fucking theories below. And if you liked this analysis, check out our video breaking down everything that could have happened if Leon Prater never killed Batista. Remember to slash the subscribe button for more Resurrection content coming your way. God damn, is it October yet? As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.